Part 3. Directions. In this part, you will hear 3 talks or lectures. The talks or lectures will not be repeated. There are 5 questions for each talk or lecture. For each question, choose the right answer, A, B, C, or D. Then on the answer sheet, find the number of the question and fill in the space that corresponds to the letter of the answer you have chosen. Questions 21 to 25.
You will hear a representative from Easy Travel Travel Agency explaining to some customers the benefits of her company.
Hello everyone. Now you're here because you're interested in travel, right? And you're in the right place. For Easy Travel we have the best deals for the best locations. We specialize in eco-travel, or holidays designed to get you amongst nature, ignoring the hustle and bustle of big cities. So whether you want to hike in Nepal, as many people do, or follow some jungle paths in the rainforests of Queensland, we can give you the best deal. If you look at our office here, you'll see our overseas consultants. That's for trips overseas, obviously, to Europe, to North America, but primarily for the Asian market, which is generally more popular in this part of the world. Most people like that touch of the Orient, right? But they also like the domestic market, since this country offers its fair share of beautiful natural vistas. What about the deserts, anyone? What about some striking red rock gorges? Then talk to our domestic consultants, who can arrange anything you want. But they deal with the accounts in the morning, so you'll need to talk to them in the afternoon. And remember, our office doesn't open at night, sorry to say. Now, around the outskirts and outer regions of this city, there are many beautiful places that you might not be aware of, and the advantages of these regional locations are many. Mostly by being closer, some of them can be done in a day tour. Yes, it's fast and convenient with none of those long-haul bus trips which often leave you cramped and uncomfortable and stuffing heavy suitcases into luggage racks. But I should tell you about our buses, those that are needed for the somewhat more distant holiday destinations. They definitely do not suffer from those problems I just mentioned. We use the services of the famous Sleek Line Company, whose buses are known as the very best. Yes, they are big, yes, they are comfortable, but what makes them especially different is the personal attendant who accompanies the driver, ready and willing to serve you and ensure that your trip is the very best. So whether it's overseas or local, we can certainly give you what you want. Now, do you have any questions?
Questions 26 to 30. Listen to a talk about recycling carbon. First, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
Carbon forms the basis of all life on Earth. It's brought into the solid phase by plants through the process of photosynthesis. The availability of light and water, carbon dioxide and nutrients all affect how productive an ecosystem can be. These are called environmental factors. But photosynthesis is only part of the cycle of carbon. We also need to look at how carbon is returned to the atmosphere so the balance is maintained. The most significant route for this is through decomposition. Organic matter falls to the ground when it dies, and then biological, physical, and chemical processes take over, incorporating that organic matter into the soil. This loss of leaves, twigs, and sometimes whole trees is going on almost constantly in tropical forests. But in the seasonal broadleaf forests of the temperate latitudes, it's concentrated in the autumn leaf fall. Falling leaves become litter on the forest floor, and its nutrients are usually conserved through recycling. Ultimately, the organic matter becomes so decomposed that it is mineralized into carbon dioxide. And when that carbon dioxide leaves the soil, we call that soil respiration. So you could consider the soil to be a single entity within the carbon cycle. The carbon that started out in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide returns to the atmosphere from the soil, and this completes the cycle. But it's not an instant process. The carbon can be stored in litter for quite some time and even longer in the soil itself. The amount of carbon in an ecosystem is not only in the living biomass, but in the litter and the soil organic matter too. And the amount is a balance between the rate of photosynthesis delivering carbon and the rate of decomposition liberating it again to the atmosphere. What determines this balance is the environmental factors such as temperature, availability of water, nutrient availability. If we take the example of a tropical rainforest, which is warm and moist, and nutrients are available, then litter is broken down very quickly, and you can get a very small store. All the carbon is in the biomass. But if you take another example, such as the Arctic tundra, which is cold and wet, decomposition occurs much more slowly, and a lot of carbon is stored within the soil.
Questions 31 to 35. Listen to a lecture about poor comprehenders. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 35. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 35. Welcome back, everyone. In our last session, we talked about language and literacy. In this section, we will begin talking more about poor comprehenders. So let's look at the overview of this term. The term poor comprehender is used to describe an individual who's able to read fluently and accurately, so decoding aspects of reading are intact. But when being asked about what they've been reading, they find it very hard to reflect on that, and often you may get a don't know response, so their level of understanding is weak compared to their decoding skills. On the surface, these children appear to read very fluently and accurately, so they may be in quite a strong position in terms of their reading skill. However, in a classroom situation, I personally think that it's quite difficult to work one-on-one to explore their understanding of the text, as it often requires some questioning to talk through different aspects of the text to really know their understanding of what the story's about. In terms of prevalence, about a quarter of children in the primary school age group may show a poor comprehender profile, so it's becoming more and more recognized. In fact, if you think about the demands of a primary school curriculum, many aspects require quite high-level comprehension skills to be able to process information effectively, so a poor comprehender might find it difficult not only in literacy but also in subjects such as history, geography, any subjects where they have to focus on key information, summarizing, predicting, and deeper-level understanding. Reading comprehension is, in fact, an incredibly complex skill that involves lots of different processes, so the research literature has uncovered a number of different areas where poor comprehenders have difficulties. And so, by definition, they have difficulties when they're understanding text. But then if we look at their wider skills, they may also have difficulties in oral language tasks like vocabulary tasks, expression, narrative, inferencing, and beyond that, issues with other cognitive skills. So they may also have difficulties with things like memory skills and eliminating irrelevant information. It's also possible they have a ball and chain monitoring their own comprehension and actually knowing when their comprehension is broken down. So the ability to think and reflect on what they've learned and where they're at with a piece of text, they might find it very hard to do that. That is the end of Part 3.